Hi there guys, I hope you are having a good day. So, as we know, December 12th, Anthony Joshua will defend his unified heavyweight world titles against Kubrat Pulev, his first defense in his second reign as a world champion. So, this is not going to be a gimme, this is not going to be an easy fight. No matter what it may look like, Kubrat Pulev is a solid world level operator and he will represent some challenges for Anthony Joshua. That is why AJ is preparing with the same kind of mindset as he was for the Andy Ruiz Jr. rematch, and that is very important because every fight is as important as that Ruiz rematch now. He cannot afford to lose again, so that is why everything will be going into his training camp for Pulev. That is why he has been training throughout the lockdown to get ready for this matchup, because after this one, it could be the big one, Tyson Fury. Now the differences of course going into this training camp for AJ as opposed to the last one is that this time he is world champion. He's no longer the challenger. I actually think he enjoyed being the challenger in that fight with Ruiz. It gave him a bit of that hunger back that he had early on in his career, which maybe at points he didn't have in the first Ruiz fight, but he's got it back now. So I think he will almost be approaching this fight with Kubrat Pulev with a challenger mindset, which is a very good mindset to have. Because when you are champion, it is easy to become comfortable and think that, okay, this is a mandatory, we'll get him out of the way, then let's go to the big one. But that's not the way it works. AJ learnt that against Andy Ruiz. So if he wants this Tyson Fury fight, then Kubrat Pulev is in his way. Then, if he beats Pulev, then he gets Tyson Fury. That is why this fight is so important. That is why the Andy Ruiz Jr. fight was so important. The difference is though, against Ruiz, he was not guaranteed a WBC world title shot after that fight. He was not guaranteed a potential undisputed fight because Wilder decided he didn't want to fight AJ and wanted to give Luis Ortiz a rematch instead. So that fight was never going to happen. AJ versus Wilder, great fight, but it was never going to happen. So Anthony Joshua became a little bit disillusioned. He didn't know where he was. He wanted to get to that fight with Wilder, but even if he beat Ruiz, there was no Wilder fight after that. But the difference is this time he has the Tyson Fury fight pretty much agreed. I mean, apparently financial terms are agreed, which is the biggest stumbling block in these big fights. 50-50 in the first one, 60-40 in the rematch, favouring the winner of the first fight. So that fight seems to have been agreed. I mean, a contract hasn't been signed just yet, I don't believe, but things will be sorted out very quickly after Tyson Fury fights on December 5th. And Anthony Joshua fights on December 12th, provided they both come through their next fights, then that fight happens. So Anthony Joshua has that to motivate him to get up for this fight against Kubrat Pulev, because Pulev has one chance. This is it. So Anthony Joshua cannot underestimate him in any way, shape or form, because this is the last stumbling block to get to the place he's always wanted to go, which is for that number one spot in the heavyweight division. You can have Tyson Fury as number one, you can have Anthony Joshua as number one, but the only way to find out is to see them get in the ring and fight. Now, of course, considering what we have seen in the past, these fights rarely come along, because in boxing it seems like they want to build it, they want to build it, they want to build it, and sometimes they overcook it. I mean, Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather is a prime example. Maybe they should have fought 5 years previous. But that didn't happen because they wanted to continue to build the brand, to build the dynamic, the storyline, all of that. They wanted to build it into this mega event. And yeah, they achieved it, but the fight wasn't what it could have been a couple years before that because they were both a lot older and ultimately those both in their prime would have been an epic showdown. So they waited a long time for that one. The worry is they wait too long for Undisputed in the heavyweight division. They don't want to do that. I think that this fight will happen in next year. I think that in boxing we are all too used to these fights being put off and pushed down the line, but at the moment I think that the fights are very important. I think that boxing needs these big fights. The promoters, the managers, the fighters realise that, and that is why the fight will happen. Despite this fight being almost agreed, despite financial terms and verbal agreements being made between Tyson Fury and AJ, Anthony Joshua has said he's not interested in the circus promotion of a Tyson Fury fight. He's focused on Kubrat Pulev, which is a very positive thing because everyone was asking him about Wilder, even about Fury, in the build-up to Andy Ruiz, the first one, and no one was really asking him about Andy Ruiz himself. This time, he's not going into that. He's not talking about Tyson Fury. He only wants to talk about Kubrat Pulev. And also I think what does help is Kubrat Pulev is talking a lot. He's saying things about Anthony Joshua like he's mentally weak, he's chinny, he's gonna chin him in a couple of rounds. He believes that Anthony Joshua is quite an easy fight for him. So that does also motivate Anthony Joshua. If he's going to say those type of things, then he's only going to bring more heat on himself on December 12th, because Anthony Joshua then wants to prove a point. And we've seen Anthony Joshua go out there and prove a point before. I think that we will get more of the old AJ in this fight with Kubrat Pulev, the one that wants to be destructive, the one that wants to go for the knockout. And I think we will see that when these two step into the ring, because Anthony Joshua hasn't knocked anyone out since Alexander Povetkin in September 2018. So he's going to want to get his knockout streak back, especially going into a fight with Tyson Fury next. So he won't want to make a statement like he did against Ruiz in the first fight, because that didn't work. Not necessarily that, but I think that he will go out there looking to be a bit more explosive, in there with a fighter who he can have a better stand-up fight with than Andy Ruiz Jr. Because against Andy Ruiz Jr. he was very awkward, he's small, he's fast, he can move quite well for a big man, and if you get him on the inside, then he's always going to come out on top, because that is his game. If you box him long, awkward, then it makes it very difficult for him to get close to you. So that's what Anthony Joshua needed to do against Ruiz, whereas with Kubrat Pulev, Anthony Joshua can hurt him. He can knock him out. He could hurt Andy Ruiz, but Kubrat Pulev, he can be more devastating against, because Pulev doesn't have the same speed, durability as Andy Ruiz, and he is there to be hit too often. That will be the problem when he gets in there with AJ. He doesn't want to get hit continuously and with a lot of punches. That is what Anthony Joshua will bring. Not just one punch, he throws them in ones and twos and threes. So he will put his punches together, and I think that Kubrat Pulev, sometimes it stays in the pocket too long, and I think that he is there to be hit. So that is why Anthony Joshua will get those combinations off. And I think that the speed, the power will be too much for him. That is why Anthony Joshua will get the stoppage against Kubrat Pulev, I believe, in the mid rounds. Maybe rounds 4 to 7. Because I just think that Anthony Joshua will start going through the gears in this fight. And I think that when he does, I don't think that Kubrat Pulev can rise his game to that level where Anthony Joshua is at. Because Anthony Joshua has shown levels throughout his career. Kubrat Pulev has also, but Anthony Joshua clearly has gone to higher levels than Kubrat Pulev. Pulev hit his ceiling in that fight with Vladimir Klitschko. Anthony Joshua didn't really hit his ceiling against Andy Ruiz, because he proved that Andy Ruiz can be beaten because Anthony Joshua has the attributes in order to do that. It's about the game plan and who makes the right adjustments. AJ did in the rematch with Andy Ruiz. That is why he won. So Anthony Joshua has also proven that he can make those adjustments at elite level, and I think that difference will show in this fight. I think it will be too much for Kubrat Pulev. Anyway guys, what are your thoughts on this? Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below, leave a thumbs up and subscribe if you are new. Thanks guys.